it's a green light for you to be disrespectful towards somebody else. I disagree. I've won the championship. They haven't.
Giannis Antetokounmpo. His team just lost in the first round for 3 consecutive years. Yes, I know Giannis didn't play last year in the playoffs, but regardless, the Milwaukee Bucks possess arguably the best player on the planet, and they're struggling to make it out the first round. This is actually unprecedented territory in the history of the NBA with superstars. You will find trouble finding anybody that's lost 3 consecutive years in the first round. Now, I'm not blaming Giannis. How could you? I actually watched the games, but I'm making my point. Stay with me. Michael Jordan had a 3-year stretch where he lost in the playoffs 3 consecutive years. In fact, during that same stretch, MJ led the league by far in the playoffs with points. The problem with that for Mike is when you look at the records, contrary to everyone else on that list, he had by far the worst. But this was Michael Jordan's first 3 years in the league. This was nowhere near his prime. Also, Michael Jordan was losing to arguably the best team ever, and the Eastern Conference when it was arguably its strongest ever. Not Tyrese Halliburton. Something that kind of got swept under the rug in all of that Game 5 madness is the fact that Giannis became the 4th player to record a 30-point, 20-rebound, 10-assist playoff game, and he lost. Everybody outside of Milwaukee, logically speaking, give me one reason why he should actually stay. Today's video is sponsored by SeatGeek. The NBA playoffs, they're in full effect. Round 1 is coming to a close, but there's still plenty of hoops left. And if you want to see the most important basketball to be played live, my friends over at SeatGeek, they have you covered. Everyone can use my promo code Swishout10 and get 10% off any tickets. Yes, we love basketball, but this isn't specific to just hoops or sports. This goes for concerts, festivals, really you name it. SeatGeek does all the grunt, research, hard work for you. They rate their own tickets on a scale of 1 to 10, with the greener dots indicating better deals and the orange-red ones telling you to reconsider. Click the link in my description box below to download the app and automatically have my code added to your account. You can use it later. That's 10% off of any SeatGeek ticket with my promo code SWISHOUT10. Do it now. This is for a limited time only.
I wish y'all would tell the whole story with me, all right? My Orlando team was the HC. No one gives me credit for getting up against the Pistons who won the title. The Clipper team that we lost 3-1. Chris Paul didn't play in the first 2 games and was playing on one leg. And we didn't have home court. And then the last one, to me, is the one we blew. That's the one I said, we blew that. And that was in the bubble. And anything could happen in the bubble. There's no home court. Game 7 would have been in LA, but it just happens.
Doc Rivers. All I'm gonna say is I've never seen a coach possess so many different variations of teams and lose critical games in the most inexplicable ways possible. After Gary Trent Jr. hit this 3 right here, I'm thinking, okay, they're probably going to win this game. Then it inched a little bit closer, and Giannis had this layup with around 45 seconds left. And I'm thinking, okay, now they're going to win, right? Giannis did his signature fist, and that means we're likely going back to Milwaukee, right? No LeBron stuff, full transparency. The camera showed Rick Carlisle's, and then they showed Doc. And I said, no way, no way. I've seen this look before. But like clockwork with any Doc Rivers team, especially in the playoffs, this happened, followed by this, which didn't count, but it seemed like a preview. Gary Trent Jr. had a huge night, but he does this. And then Tyrese Halliburton switches on Giannis and ends the game like this. I made a video at the beginning of the year about how Doc Rivers couldn't get away with this very same thing, and it happened again. It's certain ways that you lose with a team that indicates this should probably be your last year there. When this happened to Paul George and Russell Westbrook, yeah, it's probably time to wrap this thing up. Losing like this after having a 3-1 lead, yep, KD, is probably time to wrap this thing up. Luka being hurt basically for the majority of this entire round, and the Jazz still lose. Yeah, Donovan Mitchell, is probably time to get up out of there. That is exactly how this felt. Giannis, it's time. Basically, the story of the Bucks playoffs has been Giannis having an all-time type of series and him simply not having enough help. Unfortunately, the only player to score 30 alongside Giannis in this series, ultimately became the player that basically ended their year. It's actually unprecedented to have a player in the midst of one of the greatest primes we've ever seen not even make it to May in 3 consecutive years. If you look at the playoffs so far, the player that leads the league in points a night is Giannis. The player that leads the league in rebounds a night is Giannis. The player that leads the league in total points has been Giannis. This has basically been the theme of his last 3 years. When I say Giannis, he's in the midst of one of the most dominant primes we've seen. That's not hyperbolic or an exaggeration at all. In the last 3 years, he doesn't have the MVPs or the individual awards like he did earlier in his career to back up this dominance, simply because of how loaded the NBA is now, and Jokic. But these last 3 years have actually been his best. In the history of the NBA, there's only been 10 30-point, 10 rebound seasons ever. 3 of them have been Giannis in the last 3 years. I made a video about Giannis 2 weeks ago, and I played this video.
As long as we play and we approach the game every single day the right way, and we all sacrifice for a common goal, I can see myself being in Milwaukee Bucks for the rest of my career. But the moment I feel like people are not committed as I am to get that golden thing in the back, I am not. I'm a Milwaukee Buck, but most importantly, I'm a winner. I want to win. And I have to do whatever it takes for me to win. And if there's a better situation for me to win the Larry O'Brien, I have to take that better situation.
Giannis called himself a winner first, and he most definitely is. I showed y'all this graphic in that video, but even if you include the playoffs, since his first MVP, the player that still has the highest winning percentile is this man right here. The reason Giannis leaving simply feels inevitable is because of this. After this season, the Milwaukee Bucks, they're stuck in one of the worst situations possible. Dame was their big trade 2 years ago to basically keep Giannis there, but unfortunately, it just hasn't worked out for anybody. Shout out Dame because he came back for his team, and he clearly wasn't even himself in the series, but he's likely done. Dame won't even be back until around 2027-ish, and he'll be 35, 36 around that time. The Milwaukee Bucks also, they don't own a favorable first-round pick for the rest of the decade. No first-round pick this year because of that Jrue Holiday trade 5 years ago. They'll likely get shitty first-round pick swaps in years 2026, 2028, and 2030. And they have some of the worst contracts in the sport now. Dame's is not his fault. He got hurt and it happens. But Kyle Kuzma, bro, next year, they'll owe this big three, quote unquote, alone around 85% of the 2026 salary cap. The Kyle Kuzma trade is probably the worst this year. I don't care what condition Chris Middleton was in. I don't care if both knees had zero cartilage in them. Any version of Chris Middleton is better than Kyle Kuzma. Giannis's is obviously because he played and he has to be Hercules for a bad team. But the player with the worst plus minus on the team, despite doing absolutely nothing for the team, was Kyle Kuzma.
If you were doing the full scope of it, it's like, look, as great as Garnett was, he probably couldn't have always been the number one scoring option to close out a tied playoff game because he was always probably a little bit more apprehensive offensively than I wish that he was.
Yeah.
But to suggest that he was a loser because he was losing all the time was wrong.
I told you guys that superstars don't normally lose in the midst of their primes for 3 consecutive years in the first round. But this guy did. Kevin Garnett had a 3-year stretch in which he was one of the most dominant players in the league, and he had 4 total playoff wins to show for it. Out of everybody in that top 10, as far as points a night in the playoffs, Kevin Garnett had by far the worst playoff record. Now, in the last 3 years, that's become Giannis, but worse because he's more dominant.
My only regret in playing with the big three is that I didn't do it soon enough. I felt like I should have been more selfish in my decision making in my career versus trying to be loyal and but Minnie was where I was and that was my heart.
This player right here is 1A as far as the best player on the planet. This man right here leads this franchise in every relevant thing. Points, rebounds, blocks, playoff wins, anything, you name it. It's Giannis. This man right here, in the last 3 years, he He's given us one of the most dominant stretches of basketball we've seen, and he has absolutely nothing to show for it. It's most definitely time for him to leave. Oh, and the icing on the cake, the player that got moved that felt like the beginning of the end of Milwaukee, Jrue Holiday, he has the highest winning percentile since leaving Milwaukee. If you guys like this video, let me know in the comment section how exactly you feel about Giannis and where he should go. His time has expired and he needs to go. Follow my social media sites, turn on post notifications, do all that great stuff, guys. And until next time, as always, stay tuned.